Jesse, always a pleasure to have you back in the studio.
It's always good to be here. It's an escape from the office.
Well, let's get right to it because, man, 2025 has been interesting to say the least. I think where the market is, we're seeing just freight tonnage down and, carriers talking. And I mean, we hear it on the board, talking about rates lower and getting tougher out there. So wanted to, we bring you in and you study the market probably more than anybody I know, specifically trucking and bulk. And want to talk about even some of the previous podcasts we've had you on, some of the predictions you made, and wanted to see if those are holding as true as you thought. So I'll open it up. I guess first off, is the market where you thought it would be right now?
Yes, it was. And I put this in my little executive economic estimate that I do every year. Even though the American economy throughout past few years has been stable, it's been sound, especially after a pandemic, especially after the economy shut down for almost a year, essentially. We're in a good position financially, and compared to the rest of the world, this is a broken record, we're still better than most every other nation in the world. Now, that said, the consumer, which fuels 65 to 70% of our economy, the individual consumer, you and I, have been under significant cost pressures for a long time, and those are coming to bear as, the pandemic cash runs out, opportunistic cash that took advantage of that money being out there. As that plays out, people are feeling the pinch, and when people feel the pinch, they don't spend as much. We are a consumer-driven economy, meaning that the consumer drives this economy. Roughly 70% of our GDP is consumer-oriented. So it doesn't matter. You have $200 in your wallet. If it's sitting in your wallet, is it doing anything economically? No, you have to spend that money. That other person has to get $200 in their wallet. And it keeps going. It's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving, if you will. Mm-hmm. And when people slow down their spending, the economy is going to slow down too. And so what we're seeing right now is kind of the hangover from the pandemic, the post-pandemic recovery, and now a resumption of a new kind of normal period. People have houses full of things via Amazon, Walmart.com, all the other online retailers, the brick and mortar retailers. They don't need to buy a new refrigerator again. They don't need to buy a new TV. They probably got one in every room because they're cheaper than they've ever been. So when people talk about inventories of retailers, it's also important to look at inventory of consumers. Do you plan on making a big appliance purchase, or is everything, you pretty much have everything you need for the next 5 years? So that's part of the reason we're seeing a little bit of slowdown. Walmart just put out its quarterly earnings. It was a little lower. And they gave a cautionary guidance for 2025. And in terms of consumer spending, Walmart and Amazon are the bellwethers. They're the ones that's going to give the indication of what the trend for consumer spending is. And when they're saying, hey, you know what, we're hunkering down, we don't expect monumental sales. We expect maybe the flat line. So coming into trucking, even though what goes on a truck doesn't go to a store the majority of the time, it supports those industries that directly benefit from that consumer income. So when they're getting less orders, and the food space you're seeing is Cargill's laid off, or it's going to lay off 8,000 employees. ADM is going through a right sizing mode. Tyson, same thing.
So yeah, I guess that's why and again, I always think we're a little insulated with bulk trucking, providing food, but the food suppliers are cutting back and laying off. Hey guys, we are getting so much interest for our Bulk Freight Conference 2025. We started this 2 years ago. We've had 2 phenomenal conferences. It keeps getting bigger. Our first conference, we had over 200. This last one, over 500. We have a lot of people that want to show up. We want to make sure that you can get your ticket reserved. It's going to be the 3rd week of April. We hope that you can make it, but go ahead right now, go to bulkfreightconference.com and put your email address in there, and we will notify you when tickets go on sale. That way you will be the first one to be notified before they sell out. It's going to be an amazing show. We have a new venue that's going to be even bigger. We're talking actually having show trucks inside the venue, breakout sessions, and man, just a world of events to get you connected. I was just talking yesterday, had dinner with a lady that was at the conference last year and just talked about the connections that she made and the business that she's doing now by meeting those clients face to face. So we want you to be there. Man, go to bulkfreightconference.com, enter your email address, get signed up. It's going to be phenomenal. We'll see you there. God bless. But the food suppliers are cutting back and laying off.
Well, here's another thing that I haven't seen reported. Remember, we have an aging demographic and a shrinking demographic. The birth rate has decreased. There's less mouths to feed. And as the baby boomers fade away into the sunset, to put it kindly, that population level, the number of mouths to feed shrinks as well. And it's not even a percentage point, but, it adds up over time. So you have that. And then the pandemic era, food producers were kind of like a lot of trucking companies. Hey, this is going to last forever. And they built these productive capacities to stay in perpetuity when they probably shouldn't. Now they're having to play catch up. And like everybody else, it's about what's in the bank account. Cash, cash, cash. So they're trimming their payrolls to get their cash balances where they need so they can pay bills and stay in business. So they're playing catch up, but it's going to be painful because it hurts every part of the trucking market, especially the bulk space. So far, I haven't seen the thing I pay attention to in bulk commodity hopper is used hopper prices. So far, those used prices are staying high. That's a part of that's the mainline manufacturers have probably slowed down their newer production a little bit, but so there's still people buying used trailers, which suggests we still have new entrants. But
interesting.
How long that lasts, I don't think it'll last past July or August.
Do you have a pulse on truck sales?
I pay attention to it, but I don't.
What kind of ballpark do you know? Is that about the same, or is that?
No, that's went down. New truck sales. Now I expect a surge this year.
Used truck prices?
Used truck prices are coming up a little bit, and that's because of the 2027 EPA standards. Now, we get in the political spectrum. There are those that think Trump will get rid of that. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. There were those that thought that the Trump, every other president kicked the ELD problem down the road. 2017, Trump did not. So I don't know if that EPA standard is going to be kicked to the side. And two, the manufacturers are already tooling up and probably starting to make some pre-production issues to line up for that. So if it happens now, then engine manufacturers are going to be at a disadvantage. So it's a Hobson's choice, darned if you do, darned if you don't, to put it kindly.
I want to go back to the agribusiness part of it and explain, because I know like we have the population hasn't declined that much in just 2 years. I mean, I know you said less mouths to feed, but why are so many of these companies really laying off?
Okay.
Resulting in less.
I kind of skipped over this. So the pandemic period 20 to 21, most of us were at home or restaurants were closed. We weren't eating out as much. We were cooking at home more. A home is not as efficient in cooking, in preparing food, than a business that does so. Restaurants have less wastage than you and I would have if we were cooking ourselves from scratch, actual cooking. So they don't have the wastage. And even the waste that they have, a lot of it comes back into the feed supply chain via Darpro and a host of others that make different recycled products from the French fry oil that becomes an ingredient, the different carbohydrates that gets fed into their cookie mill products. So part of it is food production is now going back to the more efficient stream. So that accounts for a big part of the sales drops in consumer food even though we're paying more at the restaurant for the food, we're actually not buying as much food per meal. And there's probably a lot of other factors, but that's one that comes to my mind first, and I really haven't seen it reported on much.
So that's bulk. I mean, I'm just saying, just an example. So that's backing up to less chicken being bought from the store or what, or
absolutely.
And then so less chickens to feed, less feed to deliver.
You know, when you cook fried chicken at home or chicken and dumplings and you have leftovers, what happens? They go in the fridge. In the average household, do those leftovers ever fully get consumed? Probably not. No. And the difference is, again, to the restaurant side of things, you know, the smaller restaurants may not do this, but the bigger chains certainly do. When they have waste products, that is going into more than likely a recycling of into the feed supply chain.
Because they got to be as efficient as possible to make money. So
and they're getting money from that recycled waste, or at the very least, they're paying a minimal disposal fee for it. And then that producer goes and produces, you know, like I say, cookie meal, poultry byproduct meals, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. I want to get to this because I want to hear kind of, you know, we got the crystal ball out here, future predictions. But one thing it's been painful to see is like we're now starting to see some of our bulk carriers out of business. There was one just a couple weeks ago, a guy I know, a friend, was running 6-7 trucks and announced on social media that they had to close their doors. And again, I was just surprised that that's happening in our space.
And again, it goes back to food production slowing down, and that's a direct consumer product. And again, even though we don't haul always directly to the producer, even in the bulk space, that's 70% of our business directly or indirectly. And when that shrinks, well, freight demand shrinks too. So we're probably going to see more of that. I don't see a massive drop in freight demand for bulk commodity food, feed, pet food grade. Pet food will probably hold steady. I don't know about your dog, but my dog tries to eat more, not less. So, but feed grade and food grade, you're going to see that. But the problem is, especially in the food grade and the higher end feed grade, people are going to try to push that into the pet food grade side that meets the standards. So we're probably going to experience a little minor, I don't want to say trucking recession, but it's going to feel like it, you know. And again, we were insulated from the mainline carriers that were directly tied to consumer demand.
Yeah.
You know, at the first or second level. And, you know, now it's our turn. So, but like I say, I don't see the rates falling like they were, because the problem for the bulk commodity space in a hopper or a pneumatic, you're dragging a parachute down the road. The best fuel mileage you're going to get, if you're doing everything right, 6.5. Yeah. The average is probably 5.5. So the cost per mile is unchanged. There's no disinflationary pressures there. Repairs are still costing more. Parts are costing more. Parts availability is getting to be an issue.
Again?
It's not an again. It's been there. It's not. It hasn't went away since the pandemic. And this goes to companies are prioritizing what parts they're making. And so a truck factory is probably going to get first dibs on parts from Cummins or Detroit. And the part supply chain is going to have a lower tier. And if you have an older engine, you know, like us at BRB, we run a lot of older equipment because, quite frankly, it's more rugged than the newer equipment. And, you know, we have to pay that in the parts and repair side. But our availability per truck is still higher than a newer truck. So, but, you know, an older Caterpillar engine, a 3406 or First Flight ACERT engine, you're going to see the parts stream on that go more aftermarket instead of CAT source parts. And so parts availability, whether it's new or old, is going to start becoming more problematic. And it's just going to depend on what's selling more on the older truck parts. Caterpillar is still, for hopper, probably the number one brand because it takes the abuse. Now, me, I was always a poor man. I liked Detroit. So it was cheaper to work on. It was easier to work on.
But you're saying overall, though, there's really been no reduction in costs.
Other than fuel has eased a little bit. But
everything else is the same because you said the trailers, truck parts.
So far, the cost factors are still high. Now, you got to remember, a trailer is not a true expense. When you buy a trailer, that's an expense. No, you're buying an asset for your productivity. Now, the expense of that comes in the depreciation side if you divide it over time, typically 5 years. Yeah. So you spend $50,000 for a used trailer. The expense part is $10,000 a year. But and that does get in semantics when it comes out of your account or you're getting a note for it and you're paying that loan to pay back. You're not going to separate the principal from the interest expense to see what's expense and what's paying off a liability or a loan.
Well, to getting back to, because again, the premise of having you in there is really trying to see what the rest of 2025 is going to shape out to be. One thing too, and we might get into a hornet's nest here, but like when you look at some of the stuff going on with these tariffs, and last time you're on, we briefly talked on this, but now we're seeing these tariffs. Though, what change is that going to have domestically? Because again, U.S. is still a major exporter of grain. A lot of our haulers obviously move grain and different ingredients. But does that change anything for trucking?
Export of grain, I don't see that changing much, and because the biggest buyers, the People's Republic of China, they've already handed us a jar of Vaseline last year when they canceled orders. They can't afford to cancel many more orders.
They can't buy somewhere else?
Well, they are buying elsewhere, Brazil. But in Brazil, they had to suspend shipments for irregularities. Now, most of those shipments were coming from American, either partner companies or owned companies. So I don't know if it's just because they were the biggest player in the market.
It was still essentially coming from America?
No, from American companies that are based in Brazil. So I don't know if it was a geopolitical thing or they had some bad soybean meal, or either didn't have the protein content or too much of a toxin. So, but those shipments were suspended for irregularities, whatever they were. So the best quality export product still comes from the United States by and large. Soybean meal, all the different byproducts, our standards are still higher than Brazil's. So, and China knows that. So when, if you got a high quality soybean meal as an ingredient, your poultry production, your pork production is going to be higher, per ton of product, ingredient input purchased. And two, they've already cut where they can't cut anymore. There are other producers, but they can only pick up so much of the slack. We're still one of the biggest food producers in the world. And then when it comes to feedstock, we're pretty close to number one, and that varies depending on the calendar month of the year because Brazil, Australia, Argentina, they're in the southern hemisphere. So when our production's off, theirs is up. And so, and that ties into exports too. But China has cut about as far as they can cut in terms of feed ingredient imports into their country. So I do not see them cutting anything until closer to their harvest time. Then if they want to do a retaliation, they may do it if they have a bumper crop. But if they don't, and they're still in the same boat, you probably won't see the repeat of the retaliation that we've seen in 2018. China under Xi is not China under Mao. 40 million people are not going to let them starve. They're not going to just willingly starve to death.
So again, back to the U.S., really, I wouldn't say regardless, but we shouldn't see a change or impact in grain supply or grain movement.
We probably will, but it'll be indirect impacts. It'll be more because of the consumer income has been impacted negatively.
More domestic.
It'll be more domestic problems. If you notice China's retaliation against us this go around, there were no agricultural commodities. They went after, electronics, chips, that kind of thing, the actual hard production, manufactured production.
So again, I'm kind of thumbing around here, but going back to trucking and bulk trucking and our guys listening, like when we're getting to the end of the first quarter.
It'll be flat at best. You're not going to see any monumental growth. I don't think you're going to see severe disruptions, but we're going to feel pain.
For businesses out there that are feeling the pain right now, these trucking companies, again, I mentioned guy, one, but I know there's been many more, but if you're a company truck owner right now and man, you're right there. I mean, it's getting tight. I guess what I'm pointing is like, is there a way to nip this in the butt before you're throw up the red flag and be like, hey, I got to,
Okay. It goes back to good business basics. Number one thing, a business owner or a small business owner should do once a month when that bank statement comes in, balance your checkbook, no matter how much money you actually got. Okay, you're not an accountant. You don't know how to do a cash flow with indirect or direct method. No problem. Look at the top of that bank statement. See how much money is coming in, how much is going out in that month. Identify what your actual cash flow is in the company. And if you've got more cash going out, identify what's burning that cash and see what you can do to control those costs. If it's fuel, you may want to look at trying to become a little more efficient. Don't run as fast down the road. As much as many people disagree, air resistance creates drag creates fuel consumption.
So it can be, I'm going to stop you there. So it can be just as practical, because again, I don't say it's going to be just one thing. You're going to be like, oh, here's where all the money's getting burned, dude. It's all these little things. But one could be looking at the fuel expenditure and being like, hey, I can't control the price of fuel, but I can control a little bit of the consumption.
Exactly.
So just even as hard as it may be and painful, slowing that rig down.
And, on repairs, the things you can do that you don't have to send it to a shop to, changing the oil, the filters, that's something anybody can do. You don't want your drivers going into the Loves to change a fuel filter, $40 worth of parts, but it's going to cost you $170 to have it done. The things that you do not have to outsource for repair, I recommend not doing it. And again, it gets between time balance. What do you have the time to do? So you have to balance that. But when it comes to cash, what's more important? You spend an extra hour in a day on a Saturday, changing the oil in that truck versus going to any, a Speedco, a TA, a local shop and spending $400 to $600 to have the same thing done with that you can do under $3.
A lot of it's just even changing your habit, and maybe you're not used to doing that on a weekend or Saturday. Yeah. But
I used to drive. There was weeks I'd come in after a hard week. The last thing I didn't even want to look at that truck. See, it can catch on fire for all I care. I get that. But again, the majority of us in this business, you lose the business. That's your house. That's your livelihood.
Yeah, that's what I think. Because, dude, it seriously pains me. And that's why I want to get nitty gritty talking about.
But that's the reason I say step one, balance your checkbook. Okay, and I'm going to throw out that nasty word, accounting. You don't have to be a CPA to do your own accounting. There's plenty of resources out there to teach you what's the difference between a liability and an expense or an asset or income. And, QuickBooks Online, $35 a month, and you got a full accounting suite there. It actually enables you to do bill pay and receive payments electronically too. Now, you got to be careful there. There is a fee associated with that. Sometimes the good old waiting an extra 3 or 4 days for a hard paper check versus taking a cut on your revenue.
Yeah.
Or impacting your customer with a pay fee. So, those are things you have to do. But again, build a system of accounting. It doesn't matter whether it's QuickBooks or a spreadsheet, but identify your costs, track your costs per truck. Know what's going out the door, know where your money's burning, and know where it's turning. So, and then
over the years, I would just say, and just kind of off the cuff here, you mentioned some really good ones. Again, just the fuel aspect of it, even the maintenance aspect of it. Are there other little ones that you could probably see?
Tire inflation. What blows a tire more often than not? Somebody didn't check the air pressure. It was under 70 pounds, 80 pounds. That's a
pre-check, pre-trips more.
Yeah. If you can catch something in your driveway, it's going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than it will on the side of a road. You can't even get a road service call now less than $1,000. So if a truck has a blowout, the filter plugs up on the side of the road, you're going to spend $1,000 for that road call, no matter what's a $600 tire or a $40 filter.
You know what I thought was interesting when I was, I did a video with Earl Martin that we featured. It's on our video. Welcome people do it. But like, it was interesting. They run a bunch of these over the road tow trucks, recovering heavy duty. He said they had record business during COVID because the rates were so high. These guys didn't care about maintenance as much.
Well, they weren't have time to.
Yeah, they didn't have time. So it was more, I mean, they did the math and it was to a certain extent better just to keep running, run that truck. Cause if it broke down somewhere out, dude, they could afford to bring it back, where now, I mean, that you can't afford that tow bill.
Even in BRB, 2022's revenue and that latter half of 21's revenue was off the chart, but all the expenses associated with that revenue, it was not in terms of net income. I dare say most trucking companies and any of the big boys that I looked at on their P&Ls, they were in the same boat as everybody else. You made record revenue, but you were doing record expenses. So, I'm sure your mom told you this too. It's not how much you make, it's how much you spend. And that it's true. But again, how many people, I need to go buy this. They just look at that bank balance on their phone app or log into the bank.
How much cash they have.
How much cash the bank is showing today, but it does not account for outstanding checks. So they don't know how much the real cash is. Balance the checkbook and keep track of what's going out. Know what your real cash level today. If everything cleared right now, what's your real cash level?
Yeah. This isn't very sexy stuff.
No, it's not sexy, but it's not rocket science. Everybody's afraid of accounting. If you can do 2 + 2 and come out with 4, you're qualified. Now, if you can come out with 7, you may want to go for your CPA. But like I say, and yes, you can get your CPA to do your accounting for it. Most firms do have a QuickBooks maintenance or an accounting support services arm. If that's cost effective, do that. But make sure if you have an outside firm do your accounting, make sure they know trucking. Because if they don't, you buy a set of tires and you spend $4,000, they want to capitalize that so it doesn't hit your P&L as an expense, but a repair is a repair is a repair. That should never be an asset being depreciated. You're going to get what, year and a half on tires. The shortest life, depreciation life typically is 5 years. You're not going to get 5 years on tires. So staying in that vein, most accounting firms, if they don't know the business, they see something more than $1,000, they're wanting to put it on the asset sheet, under your fixed assets or other assets and then depreciate it. So again, if you outsource your accounting needs, make sure that the accounting firm knows trucking. And if not, educate them. You're the client, you're paying bills. No, this is going to be an expense. This is why it won't last 5 years. It will not last the depreciation life. Make sure this is on my P&L so I can see how much money I'm not gaining from this expense.
So buckle up for 2025.
Buckle up, fasten your seatbelts.
All the way through.
All the way through, and it's probably going to get more exciting as we go.
Do you think with some of the stuff that's going on in Washington right now, that'll have a positive or negative effect on truck freight?
Initially, yes. And here's the thing, and this is the truth. I don't care what politician says otherwise. We run this economy. The presidents don't, Congress members don't. They spend money. Even when they're trying to save money, they're spending money. We're the ones that make this economy work, 340 million of us, by spending money, investing smartly. What Congress, the executive branch, I don't care who's in office, they do two things and do two things very well. They tax and they spend. And they can tell you anything you want to hear. And don't be the teenager on prom night. And I'll leave it at that. You're being told what you want to hear so the other guy can get what they want. Don't do it. So again, use your head. Every business owner in the bulk space, you're here because you're smart. Use your head. Don't listen to all the junk on the radio or the TV. Look at is the Speaker of the House, Johnson, President Trump, he's not going to come help you balance your checkbook or show you where you can find new income. You have to do that. So typically when governments create policies, It's the little guy, and eventually the corporation comes behind us, comes behind small business. Most policies have unintended consequences, and the unintended consequences usually hit the people that don't have lobbyists on K Street. So what happens? The small business owner, I got this obstacle. You don't go over it, you go around it. 2026, all the obstacles, intentionally or unintentionally, that's been put in our way, we're going to start figuring out how to go around them. Because you don't have a choice. No choice is a heck of a motivator. So each small business owner, each small trucking company owner is going to do things to survive, because the farm, the house, the family rides on that company staying up. And then, a bigger fleet, not only does the owner's family reside on that, every driver's family is dependent on that business owner to make good decisions, the best decisions possible. And when there's something in your way, you're the road runner, you're going around.
Yeah. Wow, that's so good when you put it down into practical terms like that, 340 million people are really the one driving this economy.
We're the one that drives this economy. We're the one that drives governments. And sometimes we have to remind governments, hey, you know what? You're our employees. So the political aspect, my attitude is wait and see. Just to make a little humor here, I rode in my dog the last 2 elections because I don't think either party's given me the choice, me personally, that I should have had. And that's that. But politics, that's fluff. The economy rides in our hands. And sure, the governments will create policies that are sometimes helpful. But in trucking, when have we ever really got a helpful policy? ELD, that could have been kicked down the road like the previous 4 administrations. Didn't happen. EPA mandates. Trucking has one of the highest EPA hurdles to cross over any industry besides power production. So most of the policies that governments create where we're concerned are usually negatives. So don't have this, the sky's going to brighten, everything's going to be great. If it does, then you're pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about the EPA stuff, because regardless, again, I'm not saying for or against, but regardless of what happens, it's a level playing field for everybody. So everybody's got to adapt to those rules. So it doesn't really...
Yeah. And
it's not going to be, there's going to be a winner of this and a loser of this.
But again, on this, especially a small business owner, because he has no choice when government, state, county, whoever puts an obstacle in front of you, you're going to go around it. If not, that's the end of trucking. You're going to do something else.
Yeah. Wow.
And sometimes that's not a bad thing either. So, Yeah.
Well, this has been great. Just to kind of end this, and it's always interesting bringing in, because it's like we rehash kind of the same things, but it's always the same response.
Well, my life is a broken record.
No, anyway. But it's true though. I think it's kind of drilling just those practical lessons of, man, it's harder in these times, but it's like the same things of managing your costs.
And then like I say, most important thing you're going to have, and like I say, it's not sexy, it's not glamorous, is that accounting framework. Because really the most important thing you should do every day is look at that profit and loss. Am I making money today? Am I not? And then identify what's eating the profit. And again, equal importance, see where that cash is. Know where that cash is. If every check that you have outstanding cleared, know what your real cash level is. Because in the end, an income statement is an opinion. Your bank account's a fact.
We'll leave it at that. Jesse, as always, man, appreciate you coming on. Thank you. We'll see you at the conference coming
Absolutely.
up soon. So yeah, if you haven't yet, make sure and get your conference tickets, bulkfreightconference.com. I think we'll be double the size. So you spoke last year. I'm not going to make you do it this year, although you were super valuable. We're bringing in a couple other, economists to kind of spread it out and get some
experts. In other words,
no, absolutely. I think I didn't want to put the burden on you, but you did a phenomenal job. I'm sure though you'll be able to give us some good feedback.
The thing about the Bulk Freight Conference is it's one of the few venues where you have shippers, carriers, and vendors all under the same roof. Usually it's just one or it's the other.
Yeah.
Of course, there's always vendors or always wanting to sell you something, but
It's always an agenda.
well, why are we trucking? The agenda is to make a livelihood and
Yeah, true.
eventually change our names to Clampett and move to Beverly Hills. So
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you for saying that. God bless you. Appreciate it.
have a good one.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the BulkLoads Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I got Tanner with me.
Hey, everybody.
Tyler and Jared are out this week, so as I joked about yesterday, they called on the backup squad
Yeah,
today.
they really wanted the heavy hitters in here today. Or Garrett went around the office and just saw anyone he could pull in here, and that's how he ended up with me. So.
Pretty much. Yeah, well, Jesse was on today, and obviously some really great insight anytime he's on. I mean, I don't understand half of what he's saying just because he's so smart and he puts so much time and effort into the work that he does. But I know all the guys enjoy hearing about the statistics and the predictions that he's got and just kind of the root cause of a lot of the things going on in the industry.
Yeah, no, I learned something every time I listen to Jesse. And like Garrett said, even some of it's over our head, but yeah, we're thankful to have that. And hopefully, no one can predict the future, but good to just have an outlook and hopefully make some plans, for 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. And then speaking of 2025, you were just talking about a lot of guys are kind of reaching out to you, looking to kind of change some things up or making sure they're in compliance. And
2025 started out well on the permitting side. Just in general, have had a lot more guys kind of interested, whether they're leased on or, they're farming and they're thinking about kind of going commercial, but a lot of guys just kind of inquiring still about, hey, what's it take to get out on my own? What all do I need to do to stay compliant? And then I've actually had a lot of people looking to expand their operation in the new year. So a lot of guys running intrastate, looking for more opportunities, more loads, and going interstate. So obviously there's some more boxes you got to check, more forms you got to fill out, which is where I come in because most people don't like doing it.
the fun stuff.
Yeah, all the fun stuff. So it's been good, and just seems like a lot of people are feeling a little more optimistic about the new year. And are looking to kind of expand their opportunities or start a brand new company in the new year. So it's been a good start to the year so far. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, if you guys have any interest in that, feel free to reach out to Tanner, BulkLoads. We'll get you set up or answer any questions that you might got.
Absolutely.
And then obviously with the podcast, there's a couple of changes we've been doing. If you've been watching for a little while now, you'll notice we're not really doing an intro anymore. We're just kind of jumping straight into the episode just because that's what, most of you guys are here to see. And then also here in the next few weeks or so, we're going to switch to more of a bi-weekly schedule. And purpose of that is just because we really want to focus on getting the best quality guests that we can, which obviously takes a little bit longer time. And then also too, we're really focusing on trying to shy away from a lot of the virtual ones. And if they can't get into the studio, Jared will be traveling to them if it's someone that, we're really wanting to get on and think there's a lot of benefit for us and for you guys as well. So just wanted to kind of update you on that. And then obviously we've got the conference coming up. That's the biggest talk of the town around the office. So
Absolutely. It's coming up quicker and quicker. And I know, we're excited. Last year was amazing and we had an awesome turnout. And I think this year is shaping up to be even better. So make sure you get your tickets because they're going like hotcakes.
Yeah.
And the hotel's filling up as well. So we're trying to spread the word. And obviously, it's tough. We know for a lot of people in this industry of I don't know what my life's going to look like in a month, or how do you expect me to take 3 days off work? But we have planned in a lot of time, work breaks, bring your laptop, dispatch a couple loads, sit in for a couple seminars, answer your drivers or, book some loads for next week. Everyone's going to be doing it. So we just want to encourage everyone to find a way to get there because there's going to be a lot of great content and we're obviously really excited.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think hit the nail right on the head there. I know the biggest thing is really focusing. This is one of those opportunities to really not invest just in your business, but in yourself and your personal success and everything. Yep. So there's a lot of benefits that come out of this, and we're really trying to line out the best speakers for you that we think can do that. So yeah, I'm super excited. It's going to be a big upgrade from last year. And last year was even, like you said, last year was awesome. So excited for that. Well, again, appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys have anything, just feel free. We're obviously, I know we do prayer for anything in the industry or any of our users, anyone that reaches out. So if you guys have any prayers or any needs like that, please just reach out at prayer@bulkloads.com. And we would love to pray for you. Obviously, that's not going to get shared anywhere. That's just an internal thing that we do just because we know we're a faith-based company. So
Absolutely.
really important to us. So Tanner, if you wouldn't mind praying for us.
Yeah, I'll close this out. Let's pray. Dear God, we're just so thankful for everything you give us, Lord, and we just know that every good thing comes from you. God, we just pray over all of our members, Lord, all those listening. We just pray for protection as they're on the road and traveling. We pray for just a good year, God, and just provision over those. And God, for anyone who's struggling, whether it's physically or financially, God, we just pray that you would watch over them and that you would just, again, provide for them in this new year, God. We thank you for everything you give us and just ask that we would be able to shine your light in everything we do. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tanner. Well, again, thanks for tuning in. If you guys learned anything, feel free. We'd love it if you shared it along with any of your friends in the industry, and we'd love to kind of grow the channel. That's the best way to do it. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.